This is the time of truth for the World Health Organization. As you know, it failed lamentably in dealing with the Ebola virus. As a matter of fact, it was a staggering level of incompetence. And now, of course, they're trying to deal with the Zika virus, which they must do. And they can redeem their reputation. And they appear to be on the verge of doing so by appointing an emergency committee to look into what has to be done by way of the response to the Zika virus. Of course, they are, as always, delayed. They're late. It should have been done several months ago in 2015 when the first word of the Zika virus came out in the contagion within Brazil and then spreading to 15 or 20 other Central and Latin American countries. But at least they're on the road to the response, which has to be adequate because this is a terrifying phenomenon. As a matter of fact, it's one of two phenomena which have to be dealt with. The first is this simple global burden of disease as manifest in the Zika virus. This is a situation where you have the infant newborns subject to microcephaly. And as people now know, I think, that means a small circumference of the head of the child. It is irreversible. There is often brain damage. There's no cure. There's no vaccine. It's a nightmare for the tens of thousands of families now in Central and Latin America who are experiencing this. In fact, it's gone so far that some countries like El Salvador are saying to women, don't get pregnant. But that, of course, joins the other phenomena, which is the reality that mosquitoes are responsible for the Zika virus, and mosquitoes are there because of global warming. This is climate change linked to disease directly, inextricably linked to disease. And so you have global public health on the one hand and climate change on the other, and they must be faced jointly. And therefore, the World Health Organization can't handle this in one compartment. It is an international crisis emerging of some very significant proportions, and Dr. Margaret Chan, head of World Health Organization, has to go to the Security Council and ask for a hearing on a matter of health. This is not unprecedented. Back in the year 2000, Ambassador Holbrooke, Richard Holbrooke, brought before the Security Council HIV and AIDS, the first health issue ever to be the subject of a matter of peace and security. And that was followed by the Ebola virus. And now it has to be followed by the Zika virus. This is the way we get the world's attention on something which is deeply, deeply unsettling with devastating human consequences. By the way, before I end the commentary, has anyone heard the name UNICEF? I mean, this is an infant disease or an infant consequence. This falls within the mandate of the Convention on the Rights of the Child. UNICEF should be cheek by jowl, shoulder to shoulder with WHO, making pronouncements on what is to be done. You don't work in fragments and compartments when you're dealing with something like the Zika virus. That was last week. I'm Stephen Lewis.